Welcome to our YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. Pastor Ezekiel Odero is bearing the brand of speaking the truth or trying to appear as if he was criticizing William Ruto's government at a time when William Ruto was and is still suffering legitimacy. This is something that William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua have always tried to achieve by every means. No wonder when the US ambassador to Kenya said that elections were free and fair, they were over the moon with joy because they want to listen to statements that will give them authority to rule because they know what happened in the August elections. So after battling in court, the Registrar of Societies decided to cancel Pastor Ezekiel's church. He no longer have the certificate to operate as a pastor in Kenya. And many argue that Pastor Ezekiel is like a football player who has been given a red card but is still allowed to play because he is walking scot-free, yet his church has been found, according to the DCI and the investigative mechanisms, to have breached certain policies and laws that govern religious societies in our country. And in a Gazette notice, together with the other 4 churches, their licenses have been revoked, and this includes Helicopter Christ Church that is owned by Wahome Thomas. And we also have King's Outreach, a church that broke away from the group of churches that is associated with David Owuor there. And of course we have the Shakahola man, Good News International Ministries, that is associated with Mackenzie, and of course Theophilus Church that is owned by Githinji, and Githinji is also a man who I understand is very rich. He owns several property in Dagaini and Githurai. But people are really shocked by the move because even if you ask a young person, they will tell you that when you step on Ruto's tail, Ruto will deal with you. He's a man who will smile with you, but is full of revenge. Anytime he realizes that you're not reading from the same page with him, you must suffer the consequences of your utterances or your actions. The other question that comes to play is the government moved in after there were revelations that at the Good News International that is associated with Pastor Mackenzie, people were dying, and it's reported that over 450 people died mysteriously. And we've heard that Mackenzie used to tell people that you have to fast, then you go and see your maker. It was very funny that when he was denied food, it was really outrageous to him and he was really crying for. And then after the Shakahola thing, I don't know how they dragged until they later, their net caught Mackenzie, Pastor Ezekiel, and now it has landed him in losing his church. Pastor Ezekiel used to criticize William Ruto and tell him that these people don't like you. Maybe they just voted for you because there was no any otherwise. And he warned Ruto that if he was not going to implement what he promised them, then he was not going to end his term. He used to have some very strong prophetic messages to William Ruto. And so many, if you ask, they will tell you this is vengeful. It is a vengeful mission because you have seen people like Matiani, you have seen people like the Kenyatta family. We can draw a case study and conclude that they are after Pastor Ezekiel because he used to criticize William Ruto. Because you know William Ruto, does not want anybody. He wants a government where every person will bow to him. If he's not buying the opponents, he is intimidating them. And so Pastor Mackenzie, Pastor Ezekiel is a victim. He might want Pastor Ezekiel to bow down to him and join the other clergy that have always supported him, because William Ruto used the church to campaign. You know, the church hosts quite a number of electorates, and they can be used, they are opinion shapers. They can be used to influence how people vote. And they did this in the last elections. And they are trying, if you saw what happened in Central, he's trying to regroup the churches to help him campaign for 2027. So he wants to intimidate Mackenzie so that, I don't know why I keep on calling Mackenzie Pastor Ezekiel, so that Ezekiel will either join him or he will feel rendered useless. Number two, Ezekiel is always associated with the Raila Amolo Odinga. You saw Raila, I think, went there to stand with him in solidarity, because Raila felt that Pastor Ezekiel was being intimidated. And so this move could be one that is meant to show Pastor Ezekiel and Raila Amolo Odinga that they don't have powers. You remember after the sentiments by the US ambassador to Kenya that the elections were free and fair, William Ruto was, now spitting venom. They feel they have been given more mandate than what they claim they were given by the people. And so they are out there to show Raila Amolo Odinga that there is nothing you can do. That is what the government is obsessed about. When people went out to campaigns, for example, to protest against the high cost of living, they shot them anyhowly. They intimidated and abducted several opposition leaders, including Raila's aide and bodyguard. And this was just to show him that if we can mishandle, if we can apprehend your bodyguard, then we are just an inch away from, arresting you, because there had been calls to arrest Raila, to show him and the entire Azimio fraternity, to show the supporters that Raila does not have powers. So this could also be a way to brag. They are full of chest thumping. We are in government, we have the sword, we are the head of government and the head of state and everything, commander-in-chief. It could be a way of showing superiority. They are suffering from superiority complex because they don't believe they are in power. People who believe that they are entrenched in power must work for the people. That is how to show that we're in power. Now, the owner of a helicopter has already released a statement and is saying that he suspects rivalry within the Kenyan clergy. You see, these independent churches are money minting machines. Some of them, and I'm not saying all of them, I know this is an emotive topic, but we have to say it. There are churches that take advantage of their followers and they make a lot of money. And there have been a lot of, we've heard that there have been a lot of rivalry and witch hunting and backbiting. So it could also be another ploy for other pastors and the clergy that are friendly to the government. They could gang up against these churches, so that, you see, whenever this congregation will fail to find a place to worship, then they will scatter into the other churches. So it could be a battle within the battle royale, because Ezekiel was really making a lot of money. And so this could be a reason. But there are two things that many are asking. When Ida Odinga suggested that we need to scrutinize our churches and find out whether they are doing the right thing, Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto, back then campaigning, said that Raila and the Azimio fraternity are antichrists and that God would not allow them to win. They continue to say that today, and they did not want to listen to anything to do with investigating our churches. Now they have come back, they have investigated with a lot of malice in it, and they are now punishing. If we want to investigate our churches, we should have a holistic look into them and know what to do. You might fail to cancel, but put regulations that will guide them, and you give them time so that those who don't follow will be punished. And William Ruto, as always, he criticizes from one mouth, and with the other mouth he implements the same thing. You look at what is happening with the subsidies and everything. So there is a lot of malice in whatever they are doing. Pastor Ezekiel was building a complex kind of hall in Kilifi. This complex house hosted several things, business, I think business rooms there. We had a college, and it was really involved in giving back to the community. We understand that he gets a lot of money, but Pastor Ezekiel used to sponsor students and pupils. He used to help a lot of people. And you see, at a time when investors are fleeing the country, at a time when unemployment rate is just too high, we need to really embrace those who have employed, even if there are 5 people, because those are 5 families that are supported. And you see, one family could be supporting many other families. If you are working, for example, and you've got brothers and sisters who are not employed, they could indirectly or directly depend on you. You could be helping to pay school fees for your brother's child, a niece or a nephew. And so when you interfere with someone who has employed people with the myopic mind of trying to render them useless politically or something, then you don't know what you're doing. We really needed to find out how to solve. And I'm not saying that Pastor Ezekiel is innocent. I'm not an investigative officer, but we are reading mischief. If, for example, they have not paid because there was something to do with the tax evasion, and I think it was cleared, so they should embrace our investors, any employer, someone who employs, so that we have more people employed, because we are going to render very many Kenyans unemployed by this very short-sighted act. It could also be a way of taking away the money that Pastor Ezekiel has. They could be worried that now that he's close to the opposition, he could be suspected to be supporting them. Maybe in 2027 they feel he could sponsor their campaigns. You remember, we have seen them saying that Uhuru Kenyatta was the sole financier of the demonstrations that were going on. Maybe they suspect, because in the government eyes, whenever you are associated with the opposition and the opposition and their people are going on the street, maybe someone is sponsoring you. They could be accusing Pastor Ezekiel of also sponsoring, or they suspect that he might in the near future help the opposition with money to organize their campaigns. They also see a big following, and you see, whenever you have a church, if you can converge more than 20,000 or 100,000 people in one room, and you call a politician to speak to them, they feel this can influence. Just the same way they always campaign through the churches, they feel that Raila could be out to campaign through these churches. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we hope we are going to have an amicable solution to this.